Shall we bow our heads? Our dear Father in heaven, what a privilege it is to be able to call you our Father. And as we come to the end of this Sabbath day in our part of the world, we look back on a day full of blessings, blessing of rest, the blessing of communion with others, and our Lord, and above all, the blessing of communion with you. And at this time, we thank you for your strengthening hand, the ministry of your Spirit in our lives. And as we listen to Helen now, we pray that we may receive a great blessing and help us to serve you better. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all there this morning. The Howick Electronic Church is a new thing. And as I thought about what to share with you today, I thought I would start off with this scripture that resonated with me today. As God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And that's from Colossians 3, verse 12. So God gives us 1,440 minutes each day. We all wake up with the same 1,440 minutes to use. It's what we do with those minutes that makes all the difference. I think I would say that we probably all struggle with time. Our days seem to pass with alarming rapidity. I know my mom will frequently say to me, "Where did the week go?" So wherever we are, we find that we are struggling with time and to get enough time. So days seem to move in fast forwards, and we can never seem to quite get to everything that we need. But as I thought about it, we all have the same amount of time, and we have the same amount of time that all of the really successful people in history have had. So from my vantage point in nursing, Florence Nightingale, Jonas Salk, Mother Teresa, we all have 1,440 minutes to use every day. So my challenge to all of us today is, why be ordinary when there are so many ways to be extraordinary in your 1,440 minutes? And so why not have passion in everything that you do? And I'll never forget Bradley. He was a 3-year-old patient of mine many years ago who had leukemia. Lively 3-year-old, full of life, energy, and the thing that he loved to do the most was sing. So we started off with singing. His favorite song was, you know, that Incy Wincy spider climbed up the water spout, down came the rain and washed the spider out. That was his favorite song. He would ask for it to be sung all the time and would wander around the unit or the ward, singing it, asking the nurses to sing it with him. He came from a single family. His mom was on her own, and so she worked because she needed to have an income coming. And as Bradley was going through his treatment, there came a time when he had an overwhelming infection. He was not doing well, not responding to therapy at all. His blood pressure was dropping. And I'd gone into his room, and it was clear to me in talking with the physicians that Bradley was not going to make it. He was just really bottoming out. And so I went to my office quickly and called his mother at work and said, you know, Bradley's not doing well. We'd like you to come to the hospital. Now, she worked about an hour away from the hospital. And so she said, you know, I'm coming as fast as I can. And so I went back to Bradley's room, and, you know, it was clear things weren't going well. We'd done everything. He was on antibiotics, lots of IV fluids, and we were just really doing everything. When his favorite nurse came in, she'd heard that he was doing badly. And so she came in, she was off that day. And she started, Leanne was her name. Is her name, but she started singing to Bradley. Now I should tell you that Leanne could not sing. But she started singing the Incy Wincy spider with all the hand motions, and his blood pressure started coming up, although he seemed unresponsive. And when she would stop singing, his blood pressure would go down. So Leanne sang to him for the next hour, the Incy Wincy spider, over and over again. And by the time Bradley's mother arrived, his blood pressure had stabilized. He was over the crisis. And it was just a couple of years ago, Bradley came to visit me, huge fellow in college, doing well. And so Leanne's passion that day, she used her 1,440 minutes that day to make a difference. Obviously, God worked a miracle in Bradley's life as well, but she truly made a difference for Bradley that day. So why not connect with others? And as I was thinking about connections, I had several epiphanies. I like to walk early in the morning on the weekend, not during the week because I come to work early, but during the weekend. And, you know, in our neighborhood, you have hardy-dars there. My mother hates the hardy-dars because they make such a noise. We have ravens, huge ones, and I hate them because they make such a noise. They get in the rubbish and they make a mess, and just, don't enjoy them. Well, it was just recently when I was walking, I watched a raven and I was sort of irritated with it. And I was frustrated that day because it had been a bad week. And I was just thinking about all of that. When I watched the raven and he found a piece of bread, a crust that he'd obviously dislodged the day before from the rubbish bins. And he was trying to peck at it. It was obviously too hard. And so he sat with it for a while on the street, and then he picked it up, carried it over to the culvert where there was water from the sprinklers running down, and started dipping it into the culvert till it got soft enough to eat. And I tell you, we connected. I found myself connecting with that raven, and I thought, well, he's really very smart. And I felt so much better. It felt good. Connecting with the raven felt good. And then I started thinking of other ways that we connect with people. And I thought back, was several years ago, we were in Tennessee visiting my husband's family for Christmas, and a huge group of us, of the extended family, went to the mall to go shopping before Christmas. Now that's an undertaking. My nephew Parker was with us and bored to death because we were shopping, we were looking at it was mostly ladies, we were looking at ladies' things. And I suddenly remembered that I needed to get a gift for my cousin. And so I announced to the group that I was going to go and look in the men's section. Parker said, Auntie Helen, let's go do some man stuff over there. So he took my hand and we connected, and it felt good. I liked that. Then as we were walking over, I saw a mom with a young baby. She was holding the baby in the air. Baby was laughing. She was laughing. And I thought connectedness, and that felt good. I saw an elderly couple sitting on a bench in the mall, and they were talking to each other, smiling, connectedness. And I found that I really liked it. It felt good. Then I saw a group of young people walking along with their cell phones. They were laughing, but interacting with their cell phones. And I thought, connectedness, they are connecting too. Then more recently, I was sitting in the cafeteria here at work. It had been a difficult day, and I was on my cell phone. I was reading email, and I happened to look up, and there was a young girl from Loma Linda Academy, our school here, in her school uniform. And she smiled at me. And so I smiled back. We connected, and she said, you look busy. And I said, I was very deep in thought. But the connectedness, it felt good. And so I thought, it's amazing what a friendly smile can do. So in her 1,440 minutes of the day, she made me feel much better. So why not have a positive attitude in everything that you do? And again, this was a number of years ago when Jonathan was deciding where to go to university. He and I had gone to Andrews University to have a look at the school there. So we took the red eye, the flight that goes all night. It was January, so I was very anxious about arriving at Andrews in the winter. I don't drive in snow. It doesn't usually snow much here in California. And I was worried about it, in a rental car from Chicago all the way to Andrews. It was a horrible flight. Didn't sleep a wink because it was freezing on the plane. I couldn't get warm. And so we landed in Chicago, and I was not in a very positive frame of mind, and I was anxious about the drive. Well, we went out, and I'm sure you've all caught those shuttle buses to the rental car companies. Well, the woman that was driving the shuttle bus was the most amazing person. She greeted me like I was some long lost friend of hers, and she was so excited to see me and greeted us on board. She was so helpful. It was just a lovely day, and I found myself feeling quite different. And then when she dropped us off, it was like she'd known us her whole life. She was so happy to see us. She changed my outlook that day just by being so positive. We went in, Jonathan and I went into the rental car company and found we had been upgraded from our economy car to a SUV type of car. It was red, it was very fancy. And we had no trouble going to Andrews. The weather was good, didn't get lost, and we made it just fine. Again, her positive attitude changed my whole day. So in her 1,440 minutes that day, she changed my life, but she also changed, I'm quite sure, the lives of many other people. So why not be a leader, a coach, or a mentor to those that you come in contact with during your 1,440 minutes? And I thought back this, again, a number of years when Jonathan and Maggie were 12, 14 or so. They had the opportunity a couple of times to go with the New England Youth Ensemble to Jamaica. So with Virginia Jean Rittenhouse during some of her very last trips that she did. And so I went with, obviously Maggie was only 12 at the time, I went with, although most of the students were college age and older students that were there. On this tour, I got to know, of course, all of these students, and there was one young man that had obviously been through a very difficult time. So had struggled with depression, had been using alcohol and drugs, and very, very talented musically. He played with the New England Youth Ensemble many years before that, and then it had such a difficult time. So he played the cello. Anyway, we chatted a fair bit on the buses, and I might add the bus there was terrible, but we managed on it. And I enjoyed talking to this young man. Well, as I'd gotten to know him, his dream was, it's a Vivaldi piece that the New England Youth Ensemble was known for, the 4 violins. And it's a very exciting piece for those of you that don't know it. And one particular night, the 4 violinists, Maggie was going to be one of them, and then some of the other members there. And this young man had told me that his dream was to solo in the cello part, because there's a fantastic cello part that comes in, but it's very hard, it's difficult, and he was just dreaming about that. Well, the night that they played it at one venue, I was up on the balcony watching. This particular young man, because of his challenges, had been struggling to get through all of the pieces. He hadn't played for a while. But that night, he was slated to play the cello part, and he was very excited, but also very nervous about it. Well, one of the other cellists on the group that typically played the first cello role, and he played that, was a Russian student that was over there, very nice young man. I was watching them as they were playing, and as they got to the part where this young man had to play his part, I noticed that the Russian cellist was ready. And when the young man started playing, the Russian cellist his fingers were flying. He was playing and his bow was going, but it wasn't touching. He was going to backstop his friend in the event that he crashed during it. Now, I don't think anybody else saw it. I only saw it because I was up at the top. And so I said to the Russian cellist afterwards, I said, I saw what you were doing. And he said, oh, I was just there to back up in case. He said, please don't mention it to anybody. thought, what a difference that made for this young man, because just the impact it had on the young man that he successfully played it. The Russian cellist did not have to come in and play, but he was ready. But I thought, what a leader he was, what a positive influence he was. And then I thought about the opportunities we all have for mentoring. And it reminded me of a time a while back when I was at the beach, just sitting, watching the waves coming in. It's so relaxing at the beach. I'm sure most of you love that too. And I watched a dad and his very small daughter coming along. And, you know, like so often happens, dad was walking fairly quickly and the little girl was coming behind him and trying to jump into each of her dad's footsteps. And she was having trouble because the dad was taking big steps and she was having trouble with that. And the dad turned around, saw what was happening, and I watched then as he shortened his stride, and so that the little girl could actually easily make it. And so again, I thought, you know, we each in faith are following in someone else's footsteps. Sometimes it was our parents, it was a teacher, or someone that we admired. But each one of us also leave footprints to guide others, a child, a friend, a patient, or a fellow church member. So no one of us should be left to walk the path alone. And so my challenge for each one of us is, what kind of footprints are you leaving behind? So will others be blessed by following in your footsteps? Challenge for us to be extraordinary with our 1,440 minutes a day. Then why not find beauty in everything that you see? And I often think of Ian. He was a patient of mine way back when I was a student nurse at Curtis Hospital, Cape Town University. I was a second-year student, and Ian was a patient that came out to Curtis from England, which is unusual, I know, but there was an ophthalmologist at Curtis that they thought could help Ian. Ian was a child that had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. He'd been given high doses of steroids, which had severely stunted his growth, and he was also blind. So they were hoping that this physician could help him. He was 19. I think I was 19 at the time. And so I was working on the floor where he was, and we'd connected. I might add that Ian came over by himself. He was blind. Traveled on his own, and he could beat me at Chinese checkers every time, despite the fact that he couldn't see at all. Well, Ian's dream was, he was one of the most positive people that I knew, and his dream was to go up Table Mountain. And so finally we got permission, a group of my friends and I got permission to take him up Table Mountain one day. And it was one of those rare, absolutely beautiful, windless days in Cape Town. The windless is what's rare. They're mostly beautiful there. But we went up Table Mountain, and Ian wanted us to describe everything to him. What we saw in the harbor, what kind of ships were in the harbor, and just the view everywhere. It gave me a new perspective on things, because you look at things differently when you are trying to describe it to somebody else who really can't see. So we had a marvelous day, came down, but it was really the next day that I was struck by the influence that Ian had on my life, because he wanted me to write a letter to his mother to tell her about the trip. And so as I was writing, he wanted me to describe in detail, and I was just writing what he said, what he had seen that day at the top of Table Mountain. And he was describing what we had seen, but he wanted his mom to experience that. His positive outlook was extraordinary. So his 1,440 minutes made such a difference for me. Sometimes we need to reframe our view on things. We are undergoing, and I will show those of you that want to stay on, a tremendous amount of construction here at Loma Linda University Health, the whole system. So things have been a mess as stuff has to be closed. And one day I'd gone down, I was leaving through our A-level entrance, and I was late. I was late for a meeting. In fact, it seems like before COVID, I was late for everything. And so I was in a hurry. And I came down, and by the elevator doors, I'd come down the stairs, but by the elevator, I bumped into a lady with a walker who was obviously lost. So, you know, there's part of you that says, oh, I'm in too much of a hurry. And then so I stopped and I asked her, I said, can I help you find something? And so she wanted radiation oncology. So I walked down the hallway with her to take her to it very slowly. And I felt really bad because it was a long walk. And with the construction, she'd had to come a much further way than she would have normally, not convenient at all. And so as we walked to her, I said, you know, I'd really like to apologize for the mess that we're under right now with all of the construction going on and that you had to go so far. And she stopped and looked at me and she said, but it's so exciting. And I tell you, she changed my view for that day. So despite the difficulty for her, that was so exciting. The construction and the changes, she changed my life in her 1,440 minutes for that day. So why not have conviction, character, and value? Why not attack every problem with determination? And so as we face COVID-19, the struggles that we've had, I know you are having over there, the number of patients in the hospital, the working conditions for our staff are absolutely incredibly awful. So as I go up on the units on the COVID floors, the nurses with the N95 masks, that they're hot, they feel like they can't breathe, and we are struggling with the types that we can get cause tremendous breakdown. The nurses are basically getting pressure sores on their noses. At the beginning of it, we didn't know as much. You would see the fear in their eyes, and yet they would be there every day to take care of the patients. Our emergency department, we can't bring the COVID patients until we've ruled them out inside, and so they are outside in tents. It means that the nurses are triaging patients outside, and today it's supposed to be 109 degrees Fahrenheit. So very, very hot. So the conditions that they are working under are tremendous. But they go on. So they believe that they can make a difference, and they are all using their 1,440 minutes each day to make a difference in the lives of patients. I also think about what's happening with the Howard Church here, trying something new. This electronic church is something new. It's never been done before. And yet I would hazard a guess it's making a tremendous difference in the lives of all of you who are being touched by that, and it's making a significant difference. And so why not believe in yourself today to make a difference? You have 1,440 minutes each day. Use those minutes wisely. And I love the words of Helen Keller. The best and the most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. And the scripture to finish with is, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And that's Jeremiah 29, verse 11. So I do have a little, as I said, I have a PowerPoint I'd like to share for those of you who would like to stay about Loma Linda, but it's certainly, Frank, do you want us to pray before then, and then those that want to stay can stay?
I would love your mom to close this section with prayer. Auntie Betty.
Our dear loving Father in heaven, we do give today that we enjoyed. We thank you for many blessings to us. Thank you for answered prayers today. There have been fire destroying everything, and you have stepped in, and thank you that they are safe. There have been many answers to prayer. And Father, I thank you for your daily love and care for us. And as Helen said, may we each day try to make the best of our time. Sometimes I know for myself that coming to the end of life and things don't seem to be of much value anymore, there are still things that we can do, and we can be a blessing to others. So help us in that. Be with all who are here tonight. Be with us as we go into the new week. And give us strength, understanding, and your watch care.
Thank you very much, Auntie Betty. We now hand over. Those that want to leave can leave, but I think you're going to be very blessed by. This is one of our church institutions. It's a hospital, university. Helen will share some of the information with us. So we'll give it over to you now, Helen. Take us a walk through the university, explain everything to us.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So I thought I would share the mission and the vision for Loma Linda University Health. So we are an overtly religious, we are a Seventh-day Adventist institution, and that's part of everything that we do. So the statues, we've got scripture on the walls, and our mission is to continue the teaching and healing ministry of Jesus Christ to make man whole, and then fulfilling our mission through transforming lives through education, healthcare, and research. So I just wanted you to know that these are the core values for the institution that certainly relate to our religious background here: teamwork, wholeness, integrity, compassion, and excellence. And a little bit about Loma Linda University Health as a whole. We have around 16,000 employees. In addition to that, there's almost 5,000 students that are representing 79 countries. We've got 721 residents, so these are still in their training. There's 76 programs and then fellowship programs that are with that. We are made up of 6 hospitals, and I'll talk a little bit about what those hospitals are in a minute. There's 8 schools that are associated with the university, 14 institutes, and over 1,000 physicians in 67 specialties and subspecialties here. And we serve more than 1.5 million patients annually, just so you understand sort of the scope of the services here. Now, what is made up of Loma Linda University Health? So there's the university itself, and then there's the medical center and affiliates. And I'll explain that because there's the main medical center, and I'm actually sitting in my office here at work right now. There's also the Behavioral Medical Center. We've got the Children's Hospital, separately licensed, but part of the whole. We've got the Medical Center down at Marietta, and then Loma Linda University Healthcare, which is the outpatient parts, and the Faculty Medical Group, which is the physician practice, and then shared services, which is like the IT infrastructure, finances, and all of the other pieces that make up the support services for the university. So the University Hospital, which is the old Cloverleaf Towers where we are currently, is this one here, 371 beds. And this is the part of the hospital that is no longer seismically compliant. So it's being replaced, and that's why the building's going up. Our time to be in this building for inpatient care runs out at the end of this year, 2020. We do have an extension because we will not be moving quite yet, although construction should be done by then. But the whole reason why we're doing this very expensive construction project is because we are essentially right on the San Andreas Fault. So Earthquakes are a huge problem for us here in Southern California, and we don't meet those requirements. Then attached to the old Cloverleaf Tower is the Children's Hospital. It's part of the same building. We refer to those as the 700 and 800 towers. They were built much later. The old hospital opened up in the late 60s. The 700, 800 towers were in the early 90s. And so they are seismically compliant to stay where they are. And so those structures will stay exactly as they are. 343 beds there. About a mile down the road, we have the East Campus, which is under the medical center license. So it's part of the same institution, but it's about a mile down the road. It was a community hospital, but it handles a lot of orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery is done there, and then rehabilitation. It's got the Rehabilitation Institute is down there. We do a lot of work there with spinal cord injuries, head injuries, and that sort of stroke patients down there. And then about another mile down the road is the Behavioral Medical Center, and it treats, of course, psychiatric disorders, eating disorders, drug dependency, and that kind of thing. It has 89 beds there. It does both adults and pediatrics, and a fairly big pediatric population down there. We are the only psychiatric facility in this area that covers the pediatric population as well. And then the surgical hospital, which is only 28 beds, but it's got 8 very, very busy operating rooms. Short stay, it's about a mile and a half down the road from us. It's under the medical center license, so it's part of that. Typically, it's GYN surgery, a lot of urology surgery, and short-term stays. It's a beautiful facility. It's much newer, of course, and does a lot of, they're very busy in the operating room there. And then 70 miles down towards San Diego is the Marietta Hospital, and it is 106 beds. They are typically running a census of 149 to 150, which, yes, is more patients than they have beds for. With COVID, has been very, very challenging for them. So overall, as an institution, we have over 1,000 licensed beds, and we stay very, very full, keeps very busy. And then just a very quick overview of all of the outpatient areas that we have. We've got outpatient clinics in about 14 cities that cover a number of areas. And then I did include here the dentistry and orthodontics because we have a fairly busy clinic going on with that as well. On outpatient services, we see a lot of outpatients for this area. Oh, and I should say San Bernardino County and Riverside County that we do service, and we service Inyo and Mono counties. Those are some of the largest land masses in the United States as far as counties go, and also the poorest. So we serve a very underserved population here. Most of our patients are what we call Medi-Cal patients, so that they do not have their own medical insurance at all. It's all the government subsidized insurance, which does not pay very well at all. But this is a group of folk who would get no care if Loma Linda was not here and serving the needs there. San Bernardino itself, the city of San Bernardino, has a very high crime rate, impoverishment rate, actually lack of food sources for the children in that area as well. And so it's an area that the schools and the School of Public Health have worked very hard on making a difference for them. So, and then just to talk a little bit about the university. So we've got a School of Dentistry, has around 631 students in it. The School of Medicine, which is the largest single school, is 832 students in it at any given time. The School of Nursing is 752 students. The School of Nursing, I might add, is the oldest school on campus. It started before any of the other schools did. So it's over 100 years old. They all are now, but the School of Nursing is the oldest one. School of Pharmacy has 275 students. And then the School of Public Health, which is this little picture over here, if you can see that. And the School of Public Health is actually located in what was initially the first building that was put here when Mrs. White first came out to look at Loma Linda up on the Hill Beautiful. It was started as the SAN up there, Nichols Hall. And we moved from that in the late 60s into the Cloverleaf, what we call the Cloverleaf Towers now. But all of that building is still intact and exists up there. There's actually a very beautiful statue up there of Mrs. White coming out to look at the area. And the School of Public Health and the School of Allied Health Professions is located up on the hill in Loma Linda. So the School of Public Health has 272 students. The School of Allied Health Professions has over 1,000 students, but that's in a number of different programs. So radiology, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech, dietetics, all of those areas are in that particular school. Then we've got a School of Behavioral Health that has 356 students, and that is social work, psychology, counseling, those areas that fall underneath there. And then we do have a School of Religion here, which is not a seminary. It only has 37 students. The School of Religion primarily is there to support all of the other schools. So all of the schools, School of Nursing, School of Medicine, a big part of the curriculum is religion, is based on religion. Ethics, whole person care is a big focus there. But we do have 37 students that are primarily focused, their master's degree is in the School of Religion and mostly in ethics, counseling, and those areas. So just the demographics of the university, over 1,000 undergraduate students. Many times people don't think of Loma Linda as having undergraduate students in their bachelor's programs, but they do for nursing, respiratory, and some of the School of Allied Health programs. A lot then more graduate students, 1,630, because that is primarily the focus with School of Dentistry, School of Medicine. They've all graduated from somewhere else. And then 1,600 doctoral or professional students. So overall, there's 117 programs here. It does represent more than 80 religions here. So it's certainly, our preponderance of students are not Adventists. There's many others that are here as well. And we've got many international students from 79 countries, just to give you a flavor for that. Now, as entity as a whole, Loma Linda University Health does a lot of global outreach. Now, the slide, I couldn't find it, the updated one at the last minute, but the figures look much the same. We do a lot of work overseas. We've been very, very tightly involved in China for a number of years. Well, actually over 25 years. We started the hospital over there, Saran Shaw Hospital. And so it's been running for 25 years. We're now working with Zhejiang University there, got started a respiratory therapy program, which is new to China, the bachelor's degree. So we've done a lot of work there. And with the Adventist Health International groups, it's housed here, supporting a lot of the mission hospitals, many of them in Africa, and doing a lot of work there as well. I mentioned at the beginning that San Bernardino city itself is a very impoverished area. And so I wanted to just share a little bit about the San Bernardino campus. And so this was set up with what we call SAC, Social Action Council is what it was called. It was started by students back in the 1980s. And now has grown into something huge, as you can see by this building, which is fairly new. This is located in downtown San Bernardino in a very, very poor section of town and is focusing on certificate programming, but it also gives them credit so that the kids can go on to college. These are kids that are coming from families that they would never normally ever have an opportunity to go to college. and to get a professional degree. And so things that we offer there are like pharmacy tech programs, a certified nurse assistant program, surgical tech programming, and the stories you hear coming out of there. So these are the first generation folk now that are able to get a degree or a certificate to get into a work setting and make a difference. They've never had an opportunity to do that before. Has a huge impact on them. And as you can see, is in a beautiful building. The San Manuel it's named after the San Manuel Band of Indians. This is one of the local Indian tribes here that when Loma Linda first started, one of our OB/GYN physicians, a lady, would go out to the Indian reservation on horseback to provide maternity care to the moms there. And the relationship started back then. They are now obviously very wealthy, and so they actually donated $10 million towards the construction of this building, which has made now a substantial impact back to the community, which is their focus, is really to impact the community. So they see at that same building, besides the school that's going on, they see about the 50,000 patients annually, but actually this year it looks like we will finish up the year with 150,000. So these are patients that would have nowhere else to go. Our residents work there. We also have a health and wellness education department over there. There's a vegetarian restaurant. They do cooking classes there for the community. And there's a community garden there. And part of the challenge in San Bernardino, as I said, that for most of the children in that area, they are growing up in the inner city area. They have no access to places, or the families have no access to grocery stores. The only place that they have are sort of the little alcohol shops on the corner, the liquor shops that have a few food items, and none of it's healthy. So they've started a community garden there, and they are teaching cooking classes to the families in that area. So something that they've never had. There is a pharmacy there as well. Now, just a little bit to brag a little bit about Loma Linda University Health. We've been recognized, the Children's Hospital has been recognized as the top children's hospital for 3 years in a row. We're one of only 2 children's hospitals that's ever done this 3 years in a row in the whole country. So it's a huge honor for the Children's Hospital. I'm really hopeful that they're going to get it a 4th year in a row, and we will then be really on our own for that. We ranked as a Leapfrog Grade A hospital, which I know doesn't mean anything to you, but Grade A always is a good sign. So that's something really good for us. Cited as a top teaching hospital, best places to work. And so we are viewed as a good organization to be in by the public. Now, I did mention the fact that we are no longer seismically compliant. And so dwarfed now is what used to be the first thing you would see coming into Loma Linda was the old Cloverleaf Towers. Now, this is our new structure, if you can see that. This is the new hospital, 16 floors for the adult part of the hospital and 9 floors for the new Children's Hospital tower. And the Children's Hospital will keep the 2 700 and 800 towers as well. I like this picture because there's snow on the mountains. We do occasionally get snow in the winter times here. And this is another view of the hospital with the, it's coming together. It should be finished at the end of this year. At the very top here, you can see the helicopter landing pad up there on the 16th floor. So we get a lot of transports coming in that way. The old helicopter landing pad is over here on the old tower. We'll no longer use that, but we'll still use the one that's on top of the Children's Hospital 700 tower will still be in use. View from up at the very top on the 16th floor. As you can see, construction still going on, but I thought I would share that with you. This is an artist rendition of what it will look like. You can see the old part of the hospital, which will stay, but won't be used for the same things. And then this is the new hospital, Children's Hospital Tower at the back, the adult hospital tower in the front. And this part down at the front here is the atrium, but it's a huge chapel area. So as people come in, there'll be a place for them to sit, worship, just meditate. And so it's going to be a lovely area with some gardens there as well. Now, the interesting thing about the hospital, it is the heaviest per square foot building in North America. It's got 48 pounds of steel per square foot. Now, had we known that it was going to require that much steel, we may not have gone up that high because it's been enormously expensive. It's been, but for seismic reasons, we were required to do that. And it sits on top of 126 base isolators. So these are things that round springs, if you like, that will rock in the event of an earthquake. So this is supposed to be able to withstand a 9 plus earthquake. So it's quite something. Now, it is supposed to be completed in mid-December. We're planning to move in because then we have to get licensing and all of that. We are planning to move in on May 2nd of 2021 is our move-in date. So just a little bit about that, the number of floors, 6 to 16 for the adults. It'll have overall 320 private rooms. We currently, in our existing structure, do not have private rooms at all, which makes it difficult because if you've got somebody with an infectious disease, then you lose a bed. So these will all be private rooms. The base will be shared. It'll be radiology, emergency, operating rooms, CVL labs, and all of that. So that'll be a shared space. And then the Children's Hospital Tower. We have a huge NICU for the very tiny little babies, 84 beds. We are looking to expand that to 100 beds because typically we run out of space for these very, very tiny babies. So a little bit there about the children's, but they will keep the 700 and 800 towers as well. So we are the tallest hospital now in California, which is, but it'll be the second tallest building in San Bernardino County. And I thought you might be interested that the amount of steel used could build 2.5 of the Eiffel Towers. That's how much steel we have in this building. It's quite amazing. And if you melted the steel down to a 1-inch diameter cable, it could go all the way from here across the country to New York City and have some left over at the end. And then this is a view before the structure, before the new hospital went up. It is green here some time of the year.